got to start recording this. So if you did this lab 4, it is not due this week. It's not due before the test. So I'm not trying to put extra stress and pressure on you. Don't worry about that. You do not have to submit this until next week. However, if you are looking for something that will help you to prepare for the test, this may help you. And the reason why I say that is I'm now going to just briefly talk about the test. So the test is going to require you to produce two HTML documents, and the idea of these, and so somebody's trying to chat with me, but I can't see the chat. Um, the two documents will be one of them. Yes, I am recording, I think. I started recording a minute ago. Yes, I am recording. So one of the documents will include a table. And I don't think I'm giving away too much secrets about that, because that should be obvious to you, because lab 3 was table, lab 4 is table. So look at those and see how that is. Yeah, you don't need internet to check if your file's working. All you need is a browser. So you can do that with a computer that's not connected to the internet. So don't worry about that. Um, so yeah, so back to the test. Two documents that you have to produce, two HTML documents. One of them obviously will have some kind of a table in it. Now, what's happened is I have the test, and the test will not be the same for every section. So you may know that some students are probably doing the test today or tomorrow in another section. The test that they will receive is not the same test that you will receive. All right. So it will be changed. And so if you sort of somehow get access to what they've done, I'm sure that's quite possible. And so you decide to submit that. It'll be obvious to me that it came from them. And that will not gain you marks and may gain you some trouble. So you don't want to do that. Differences will include the shape of the table, maybe the number of columns, or at least the width of the columns, colors of cells in the table, all kinds of things like that could be changed. So I'm just telling you, your test will not be the same as what the other students have done. You get your own special test. Um, and I just mentioned that because I'm pretty sure that people have their ways of finding these things out. And that's why we do it. That's why we change the test. So two documents that you have to produce. One of them is going to include a table. One's going to contain other stuff. In both of them, you will have to do CSS and HTML. Now, your CSS, I should tell you also, should be internal CSS, that is in between style tags at the top of your document, inside the head, not you don't need to do an external CSS, which would require you to have another to have another file, which would be a CSS file, which you then link by a link in the head. You don't need to do that. And in fact, I don't want you to do that. I want you to just do a internal, put your CSS commands in the file. And there's only 2 files anyways, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. You will have some image or images that you have to put an image tag in there. Yeah, and that's kind of in the table. You should be able to do all the stuff that we've done with tables. So you should be able to identify and then style individual cells in the table. You should be able to identify the entire table and style it all at once. You should yeah, I guess that's about it. Let's have a look at an example. So now I'm going to show you an example. It's not from the test. I'll show you a couple of examples, not from the test, but it's, and this is lab 4, what you're working on now. So if I double click on the file there and we have a look at that. So lab 4, we have this situation here where we have a table. Now, what's important in this table is a couple of things. One, we can use width of our elements, we can use pixels, and we can use percentages. And that would help you in the test, that knowledge and being able to do that. Now, how does that affect it? If you see what I'm doing with this table, I have this window which has this document in it, and as I stretch the window, we see that the entire table takes up the entire width of the screen. So what we've done is we've set the table to be 100% width. What that means is when you set a width, use a width command and you say a percentage, that's the percentage of the element within which this table sits that the table is going to take up. So this table sits inside a div or a body, and it takes up the entire width of the body, and so or the div. And so let's look at the code for that. So this is Notepad. I'm showing you Notepad because it's possible that you won't be able to use Visual Code, Visual Studio Code. Um, so the HTML is the same, anyways. But if you have a look at that table, what we see is we've got 3 columns, and 2 of the columns have been given class names, and then those classes have been styled to be a fixed width. And how that manifests itself, where did that go? Probably, oh, well, no. Okay, so I use another, did I use another browser for that? Yeah, anyways, yeah, so I'm not sure what browser that is, but so these 2 columns here, mobile and landline, they're 150 pix wide. They're always going to be 150 pix wide, but the other column has not been set a width. There's no width set to it. So we see our first column there, service, has no fixed width or no width at all. But the other 2 columns have been set to have a width of 150. Then the entire table has been set to be a width of 100%. What that means is, and if we look in the document, we see that the table element is sitting inside another element. It's sitting inside the body. And so the table element is going to take up 100% of the width of the body element. Whatever the body is, the table's going to be 100% of it. And yeah, so it's that browser there. So, and that's why you see that doesn't matter what I do with the window, the table is always 100% of it. This may show up in the test as a question sort of which asks you to say, takes up the rest of the space or takes up all the space. Then what that would be you would use some kind of percent thing for that. So percent allows you to have a variable size. The size changes with the size of the window. The other things that are in there that we see, hopefully these are familiar to you, not on this page, but let's look at the other page then. In the other page, we've got this situation where the heading of the table is a single column in the row, which is the heading row, and then the other ones are all 2 columns. So let's look at that code. And so I hope it's obvious to you how that happened. You should know that by now. If we got the right one here, product details, yeah, I guess so. So where's our table? Our table's here. How we got the headings column, sorry, the headings row. That's this row here. There's the row tags there, and then the table heading tags there. And so we did a column span. Column span kind of is similar to a row span, but I hope that you can see the difference there between the column span and the row span. So here we've got a column span. So 2 columns, but they've become 1 column. So so we only have 1 column where we would have had 2, and so we did that with that. If we go back and look at the contact table, we can see the row span working here. So we have 2 rows here, and you've already done this. This was an assignment that you've done, so you should be real familiar with that. We did a row span of 2, and that we only had for both these 2 rows, we only had 1 service column and with the value of shipping in it. And so if we look at that in the code, So where are you? That was contact support, right? If we look at that in the code, we'll see the row span there, right? Retail shops is going to be in 2 rows. So just that tag there, retail shops, is going to be for 2 rows. The other stuff is going to be on 1 row only. So that's why the following row, the row that comes after that, doesn't have anything in the service column. It's only got 2 columns, whereas this row here has 3 columns, right? It's got the retail shops 444 and then this number, but the following one only has 2 columns, and that's because retail shops covers 2 rows. So going back and looking at that, I hope this is making sense to you. That we did that already, and come on, I want to move this. Oh goodness, yeah, this is Zoom getting in the way. I'm going to blame it on Zoom because haven't got anywhere to sort of hang it right. So hopefully you can see that the 2 rows that are covered by that data, which is just the shipping. All right, so I hope that is sort of clear. I'm getting a chat. Sir, do I have to make an empty row to use row span? If you're going to row span 2 or more, then the following row is going to have one of the columns. The whole row won't be empty, but at least one of the columns will be empty, which is the column where in the row where the row span is, where that tag was. So here I have this TD tag. For the next row, that will be missing. The next row will have this other stuff in it, but the first TD is missing because the row span. Let me give you another example of it. And again, it comes from this. If we have a look at this table here, hopefully you can see that table. And so what we've got, and maybe I can make it even bigger. I think I can, yeah. So yeah. And maybe a bit bigger still. So yeah, there we go. So there's a nice sized table. You can see that, I think. All right, so let's have a look at it. The first row is the heading row. And so the heading row is treated different than the other rows, and it's styled differently. But then we've got a whole lot of row spans. There's no column spans going on here, but there's a lot of row spans. So the first column here spans all 5 rows. So that's going to be a row span 5. Then the next column is going to have 2 spans in it, span 3, row span 3, and then row span 2. And then the next 2 columns, there's no row span. So how does that look? So this is how it looks. I hope you can see this. The first row was the headings. Okay, so you see all the TH tags in there. That's the headings. And just to make that clear in your mind, you see in the CSS, we've made the headings background color black, color white. Now you better be pretty familiar with doing background colors and colors because they're going to be asked to do that in the test. You're going to have particular cells inside the table, and you're going to need to color them or color their text. So you should be able to do that. There's a question. Sir, scroll up a little bit, please, for the other code. This is the whole table. I'm not sure what you mean by the other code. So that's all the code there is for this I'm sorry, I'm not sure what you mean. Okay, so yeah, the row span 5, somebody is asking me there about row span 5. He wants the previous one. Yeah, okay, I'll get back to can I go through this and then I'll go back to the previous one? I will. Maybe you're, but the row span 5, that works with, goodness gracious. Come on, where'd you go? Rotten thing. Again, there it is. So row span 5, oh goodness. I'm just trying to move this, get all these things in the way. Not that. And where's my code? There. Yeah. All right. So now we've got them beside each other, right? So row span 5 here. And after I finish going through this, we'll go and look at the previous code again. Row span 5, that gives us, do you notice that the detail that it's working with there is the elementary? That spans 5 rows. And then the next bit of data spans 3 rows, and that's going to be, and as you can see, that's going to be the Lycée Voltaire, the Voltaire School. So there's our 3. Then the next bit of data is for 1 and 2. So that's the first row. The first row has elementary, Lycée Voltaire, 1, 2006, 2007. The second row doesn't have elementary and it doesn't have Lycée Voltaire because they are spanned. So the second row is just going to have 2, 2007, 2008. And if you look at it, that's all there is in the second row. 2, 2007, 2008. Same for the third row. Doesn't have these things because they've been spanned. So we just going to have 3, 2008, 2009. So there it is, 3, 2008, 2009. Then the fourth row doesn't have anything in the first column, but it then does a row span and for 2 and has the Lycée Bonaparte, the Bonaparte School, and that spans 2 rows, and then it has the other information in that row for 2009. Then the next row, the last row, all it has is 5 and 2010, 2011. So somebody wanted me to go back to the previous stuff. Was it not that? This one? I think so. So let me see if I can find that. Oh, goodness. Too much stuff going on here. So that's contact support. Yeah. So what was the question that you wanted to see this code, or you just wanted me to talk about it a bit? I'm not sure. That's the one. Probably I can make it a bit smaller now. Yeah, so let's go and look at that again. Oh, yeah, there's some cool stuff in here with the CSS. Now, you will have to do CSS. Could you do the background color? Could you do the color of the text? How do we do that? So look here, this first one here is the table heading tags. And so, yeah, if we look in that, that's here. All of that, what we're doing is we're making the word mobile and the word service and landline, we're making them white, and we're making the background a kind of a blue color. And so that is done in the table heading. Here's the table heading. And so how that's done is with the command for background color to give it this color, which is that one. And the color white is for the text. And then we've done something with the font too. Now, what if you wanted to just do a single cell? Then maybe you'd have to put apply an ID to it or a class to it. And hopefully you're sort of familiar with that. Have we got any IDs in this? Not this one. Oh yeah, we've got some classes. This one has 2 classes, land call and TF call. And we use that to work with that. Well, let's say we wanted to have an individual cell have a particular color. Well, let's do that. Let's take a particular cell. I'm just going to take this one, and I'm going to say ID equals, and I'll call it blue or something like that. I don't know. So why not? So what I've done is now if I go into my style and I do hash blue, because there's a part of the database, sorry, there's a part of the website which is just called blue, and I could do the background color on that, background color, and light blue. Light blue. Is there such thing? No. Powder blue or something like that. Blue. Blue's kind of an ugly color for a background. It's gonna, you won't be able to see the words. So I'll have to do the color of the text to be white then. And let's save that and then refresh this. Oh, I got the wrong file. It's quite possible I do. Where's this file? just 6. Oh, well, to make sure I've got the right file, let's just do this. Yeah, so I was working with the wrong file. Was it context support? Yes. So Newt color red. What's that? Where's Newt? Color red. That I just. Where's the color red? Let's take. Let's take this one here. I'm going to take this one here and do that to it, right? ID equals blue. So you should make sure you're editing the right file before you try and start doing stuff like this, right? And so let's go back in here and do that.
So are we going to be doing CSS in the test as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why
Oh,
I'm
can I
showing.
do the CSS inside the code?
Very good question. Do not do inline CSS. Okay, as
Why?
specifically, it's mentioned.
Why can I?
No,
Why do I have to do it separately?
you like to get grades, right? Sorry to come
Okay,
down with
that's
you
true.
like that, right? No, that's the specification of the test, and so we have to be consistent with the other classes, and that's how the okay, just that's what the test is. It says you have to do that. Hopefully, I've got the right file now and save that, and yeah, so you can style an individual cell just by giving it an ID. That's what I've done there, and then putting whatever style you want to have on that. Um, Hopefully that's not too clear. Now, I hope I didn't sound too high-handed on that about maybe you like to do inline styling. It's really, really hard to read and mark. So that's one problem with it, and it's just really not a good sort of anything that's hard to read and mark means that it's going to be hard to keep it up to date. So to maintain your website. So it's just better from a programming point of view to have it separate, have the styling separate from the code, and then it's easier for you to sort of update things and work with it. I hope that satisfies you as an answer. All right, so that was kind of fun because I started off with the wrong page while I was editing, but I hope you get the idea on that. I'm pretty sure you're going to need to do that in the test. The H1 is kind of we're talking about because there's something there that is a really neat sort of feature that we might not have talked about, which is this border bottom. And so the border bottom is this thing here. Now, you've seen something like that before with the HR, which was a horizontal sort of line across the thing, but this is actually a border to the H1. And so you can have a border top, you can have a border bottom. Border bottom is just, it's going with the heading. So this is an H1 tag, and it's given a border bottom that allows us to have a line really close to the text and allows us to style that line. Here it's been styled 200, and yeah, we've got the margin there, the 50 pixels there, that keeps this heading away from the stuff above it. Other things in there, you do need to be able to use EM tags, right? So there's an EM tag. So that's at the bottom of the table, right? So the table's there, so there's your EM tag. All of those things you're going to need to do. Hopefully won't be too much trouble for you. All right, is there any other sort of questions on that? I don't think that there's a call for you to use. I don't think there's any reason to use HR in